reason given for that non-appearance is unreasonable, then you can invoke Standing Order 51D. Otherwise, honorable senators, if it's lamenting, you have done enough. You need to proceed to take action on this matter. Next Wednesday, I will not be surprised if we may not go through the same motion of lamenting. So the Honorable Senator Majority Leader and the Honorable Senator Minority Leader, you need to put this matter to rest. We cannot allow 1 hour, 2 hours of honorable senators lamenting every Wednesday morning. It's either you bite, or when a cabinet secretary does not appear, we just proceed. But we can no longer use our precious time to lament honorable senators. So to the two leaders, you need to lay this matter to rest. Either you. Yes, Honorable. Very well. Honorable Senator.
Speaker, I wanted to seek your clarification on whether the options of this House are limited to the provisions of Standing Order 51D. And the clarity I'm seeking is, why is the option of the fines and other penalties that are available to the committee not available to this House as a whole? That's a clarification I wanted to seek, because this censure motion route is a longer route. At the Committee of Energy, my chairperson, the Honorable Matinga, fines people liberally for failing to appear. I don't know why that is not an action we can take this morning for the failure to appear by the CS, because we are not satisfied with the explanation that he has given.
Honorable Kalwale.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm rising for clarification, not to doubt or challenge your direction. Mr. Speaker, you cannot dose the responsibility of 51D to the House. This House has a leader of majority. He was the first to state, Mr. Speaker, that we be guided by the decision of this House about the failure of the Prime Cabinet Secretary to appear. Mr. Speaker, the clarification I'm looking for is that you make two pronouncements. The first one is that on our behalf, you direct the leader of the majority to present a motion of censure against the minister. The second one, Mr. Speaker, is for you to read from the same page with the chairs of all our committees, led by the Senator of Kiambu and the Senator of Nyeri. They have been fining governors. From that chair, you pronounce a fine against the responsible minister. And finally, Mr. Speaker, on clarification, if you look at this letter, it is written by the Chief of Staff, Mr. Joseph Usieka. I have never seen in my entire life in this parliament a situation whereby a stranger in a ministry who we don't understand is addressing the Senate or Parliament for that matter. If the Cabinet Secretary is for whatever reason unable to write this letter, it should have been written by the accounting officer, who is the principal secretary. Who is this fellow? I know he comes from my home in Malaba, but Mr. Speaker, that is for purposes of doing funerals at home and weddings and all manner of things. But for purposes of official communication, the Cabinet Secretary must be warned from allowing strangers to address the Senate. A Chief of Staff is a very small thing. And he's not an accounting officer. The accounting officer, Mr. Speaker, is the principal secretary, whose appointment was approved by Parliament.
Senator Wambua.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are guided, we will not lament. Mr. Speaker, two issues. One, The matter raised by Senator Halwale on who can address the Senate and who cannot, the Speaker, you need to protect this House and protect committees. The other day, Mr. Speaker, the governor for Nairobi, when he decided he was not going to appear before the Committee on Roads, he sent an acting officer to write to the committee and tell the committee that he cannot attend a meeting. The Speaker, protect this House. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, because this is likely to happen again and again, you have said that the SBC had agreed that the Cabinet Secretary for Gender was supposed to appear at 11, but later on, it now appears, if we take what the majority leader said, and you have no reason to doubt it, that there was further communication from the minister that she will appear from noon. The Speaker, for guidance, how was that communication done? Was it in writing? Or was it just a conversation, and then it was agreed that she will come at noon? Mr. Speaker, we don't lament because we want to lament. We lament because we are in trouble, Mr. Speaker. If we found ourselves in this situation, what do? Did she write to say, I will come at noon, or did she call and say, I'll come at noon? And whether will stop the other cabinet secretaries, Mr. Speaker, from altering the time that they're going to appear by just placing a call to maybe your office or the office of the majority leader and say, good people, I was supposed to come at 9, I'll be appearing at noon or at 11. So the House can do whatever they want to do and wait for me to appear at noon. Mr. Speaker, let's correct this. Thank you.
Senator Kathuri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me also this opportunity to make a comment on this matter. Mr. Speaker, where I sit as the chairperson committee, and when we discuss with the chairs, we have like a backlog of statements and petitions. Almost the whole statements are almost now 400, which have not been responded to. Petitions are more than 20 petitions. And the reason, Mr. Speaker, the chairs are complaining that the cabinet secretaries are not honoring their meetings when they are summoned when they are requested to appear before the committees. So, Mr. Speaker, if this trend continues, then the work of the Senate will be paralyzed. And if this is the trend, the majority leader, then we should do away with this question time so that we can divert to our usual business. Because we cannot sit as Senate, through actually the executive, the chief executive of this republic, no other than the president. Actually, this was his brainchild when he was elected as the president. And if this thing is not working for the Senate and for the National Assembly, then there is no need of having this question time by the ministers. Let us just survive the way we have been surviving. So that's also the work of the senators. Petitions in this House, Mr. Speaker, and I will request also the Director Ruto to give you some time so that you can listen to us. Mr. Speaker, petitions in this House are brought by citizens themselves, most of them. And when we stay with the petitions for 5 months, 6 months without responding to a petition, which has been brought by some communities because they are oppressed, they have issues, then, Mr. Speaker, this House looks very bad to the public. And, Mr. Speaker, that is why we should have a discussion about, do we need to have the CSCs appearing before this House? Do we revert to the issue tradition? Which system is working for the Senate? So that, Mr. Speaker, we can be able to expedite our work. I was reporting that we have more than 400 statements which have not been responded to. Actually, the statements have been brought to this House by the members, our fellow senators. And when we meet as rehearsal, like we'll be doing today at 1, we have no alternative. We just read the figures. How many statements are pending? 400. How many petitions which have exceeded the 60 days? Almost 30 petitions. So, Mr. Speaker, we really need to have a candid discussion majority leader will send you to the house in the hill and tell our boss, not our boss, but the president, that we are not doing so well in this matter on appearance of cabinet secretaries. It is not good for a cabinet secretary to call the speaker by phone that I'm not appearing, or call the majority leader. No. These cabinet secretaries should just do correspondence. The PSs, the clerk of the Senate, writes directly to the PS, communicating anything from the Senate. The same way, only the PS should communicate to the clerk of the Senate. Actually, this letter should be null and void, because this is what we call in Kiswahili Madharau. So we need Senate to be treated the way it shouldn't be treated. We are very honorable people, even out there when you see us. But the way these CSs are treating us, it's just like primary school or high school boys. So, Mr. Speaker, this house should be respected, and I think we should not, at any time again, though you have put it, Honorable Speaker, that we should come here to win and to cry, but let action be taken. Mr. Majority, don't bother calling any CS to appear. The one who is not interested to appear, we then use 51D promptly so that we can be able to censor these people. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Senator Ledama. No, clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was listening to my brother, the Deputy Speaker. And let me say that I like what he was saying. And Majority Leader, my good friend, you know, in reality, the order paper belongs to you because you're the Majority Leader. So when we sit here and start lamenting, we're actually lamenting and pointing a finger at you. You know, I would not want to say that you're failing, but other people could conclude that. This house must be respected. When we stood here, Mr. Speaker, and some of us argued, we interpreted Article 153 of the Constitution to say that a cabinet secretary can only appear before a committee of the House. And it's actually, they are mandated to appear when they're invited to do so. But the judiciary ruled it so it fit that they also appear before plenary. Now that they are here, and that is the reason why we decided to be here, because our side of the House had decided not to attend because we did not want to violate the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the only thing we ought to do now is to look at the provisions of the laws that gives us powers to punish these individuals who fail to appear. Section 19 of our Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act is quite clear that whereas a witness has been invited or someone to appear but fails to appear, there are consequences. So I don't know why we are lamenting here. I think we should just do what we did in the last parliament. In the last parliament, the Majority Leader was seated here. We censured the Cabinet Secretary of Energy then. And there were consequences that followed. You know, some people, see as if we just come here to talk and talk and talk, but we've got a lot of power. So this power that we have, Mr. Speaker, I want to beseech you to allow this House. And now, since you are the one seated there, you are like the chair of that committee. I think you should be the first one to say that we are now going to apply Section 19 of our Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act, so that these people can be able to respect this House. The other day we were given a credit. They said that we're doing better than the National Assembly. We're doing better than the National Assembly because we are diligent and we know the law, we know our rights, and we know the powers. We are here as ombudspersons of citizens who have sent us here to represent them. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to beseech you that we become decisive in our decision making. We send strong messages. Because, seriously, when I saw the President saying that he's going to now ensure that the Cabinet Secretaries appear before the floor of the House, when they fail to appear, what does that mean? I don't want to use slang, but it's like they're showing him the middle finger. Utadu. You know, Mr. Speaker, this is something that we need to be very serious about. We have to respect, the Speaker has got to be respected, even the President has got to be respected. So, Mr. Speaker, I
think, Honorable Senators, let this debate lie there. I have indicated and advised that the recourse you have and the recourse that this Senate has, where a cabinet secretary fails to appear without any reasonable cause, then you may invoke Standing Order 51D. So, honorable senators, the reasons you're giving, the contributions you're making are so relevant and will give weight to such a motion. I wish to hear the kind of debate when you're debating that motion. Because as we are talking now, at the end of the day, no resolution can be passed as far as the failure of these CSs is concerned. So majority leader and the minority leader take leadership in this matter. As far as what Senator Sifuna has alluded to, then can this House, sitting at plenary, impose a fine, just like a committee? Of course we can, but it is the procedure, because you need to pass a resolution. The Speaker cannot impose a fine. The fine can only be imposed by this House through a resolution of this House. So how do we then proceed as a House? Even the amount, you don't, even the amount. And my advice will be, what Senator Sifuna has alluded to is very valid, and it is something that next Tuesday, as we sit as SBC, we'll put our heads together so that we neaten out the procedure on how this House can resolve on imposing a fine to a cabinet secretary who has failed to attend. That will be my advice for today. Honorable Senators, let us now proceed to tackle the other business in our order paper as we wait for the CS agenda at noon. The mode of communication, yes, that's an issue that has been put forward for determination by honorable senators. The only officer who can communicate to the Senate, just like in the Senate, the only officer who communicates with other institutions out there is the clerk. As far as ministries are concerned, the only officer that will accept the communication is either the permanent secretary or the CS themselves. Any other letter, any letter written by any officer other than the PS or the CS will be deemed a no communication. So, clerk, this communication has to be communicated to all honorable CSs, that if the Senate received a letter that has no hand of the PS or the cabinet secretary, it shall not be deemed to be a communication to the Senate. Kindly communicate that. Now, honorable senators, allow me to invoke Standing Order 45 to rearrange the order paper. Instead of proceeding to discuss order number 8, which is a motion by the honorable senator for Mombasa, we will proceed to prosecute order number 9. That is the motion on the status of pending bills and counties. So clerk, proceed to call that order, please.
Order number 9, motion. Status of pending bills in counties. Resumption of debate interrupted on Thursday, 20th March 2024.
Honorable Mwaruma.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa hii fursa umenipa ili kuchangia huu mswada ulioletwa na Senator wa Narok, Senator Ledama Olekina, kuhusu malipo ya wanakandarasi ambao wamefanya kazi kwa serikali zetu za county. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiangalia huu mswada imesemekana kwamba ama vile hali ilivyo katika kaunti zetu ni kwamba kuna wakandarasi wengi wamefanya kazi lakini hawajalipwa, na hili limepelekea hawa wanakandarasi kufunga biashara zao, wengine wamejiua. Banki nyingi zimekataa saizi kupatia wakandarasi ambao wanafanya kazi na county government ama serikali za county pesa, na hii imepelekea umaskini mwingi, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hawa wanakandarasi. Nakubaliana moja kwa moja, Mheshimiwa Spika, ya kwamba ni vyema sheria ifuatwe wakati tunalipa wakandarasi, kwa sababu sheria, Mheshimiwa Spika, inasema ya kwamba wakati tumeanza mwaka mpya wa pesa, basi zile pesa za pending bills